The butcher shop stood alone, a brick blemish on a pristine street. Its sign, Grimm's Fine Meats, was faded and chipped, like a sinister grin with missing teeth. The windows, always fogged, hid the secrets within. The scent of iron lingered, a constant reminder, a metallic tang that clung to the back of the throat. Few dared to venture near. Those who did spoke in hushed tones. Their words were cautious, fearful. The shop was a place of shadows, of whispers and unspoken truths, a place where the air itself seemed heavy with dread, and within its darkened doorway a malevolence festered. Edward Grimm, the proprietor, was an enigma, tall and gaunt, with eyes that glinted like obsidian. His smile, rare and unsettling, never reached those eyes. He moved with an unnerving grace, like a predator sizing up its prey.
His hands, stained red, were surprisingly delicate. They handled the tools of his trade with a practiced ease, a cleaver, a saw, a bone scraper, each honed to a razor's edge.
The townsfolk found him unsettling, yet they craved his wares. His meats, they said, were exceptional, juicy, flavorful, the best they'd ever tasted. They didn't question the source, they didn't want to know. The disappearances began subtly, a drifter passing through, a lone traveller seeking shelter. Gone without a trace, swallowed by the night. At first it was easy to ignore, to dismiss as wanderlust or misfortune.
But then, the disappearances became more frequent, more local. A familiar face missing from the morning market, a neighbor's child who vanished without a sound.
Fear began to ripple through the town, an undercurrent of unease that tainted their once peaceful existence.
Still, they clung to the illusion of safety, to the belief that such horrors happened elsewhere.
The rumors started, hushed and hesitant, whispered behind cupped hands, glances cast towards the butcher shop, accusatory yet fearful. Some spoke of strange noises emanating from within, the sounds of muffled screams, of metal scraping against bone, of something heavy being dragged across the wooden floor. Others recounted tales of seeing flickering lights in the dead of night, and the silhouette of a tall figure silhouetted against the shop's grimy windows. The rumours spread like wildfire, fueled by fear and suspicion, yet no one dared to confront Edward Grimm, not directly. One grey afternoon, a stranger rode into town, a lone figure on horseback, cloaked in dust and silence. His face, hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, held an air of quiet determination.
He asked few questions, his voice a low rumble. His eyes, sharp and observant, seemed to miss nothing.
He rented a room at the inn, a modest space overlooking the town square. From his window he had a clear view of the butcher shop. His gaze lingered there, unwavering. A flicker of something akin to recognition crossed his face. The stranger, it seemed, knew more than he let on, and he had come to this town for a reason. The stranger began to ask questions. His presence was unsettling, a shadow that loomed over every interaction. Subtly at first, his inquiries veiled in casual conversation. He seemed to blend in, yet there was something about him that set him apart. He learned of the missing persons, the whispers that floated through the town like ghosts. Each story he heard added to the weight of his mission. The fear that clung to the town like a shroud was almost tangible. It was in the way people walked, the way they spoke in hushed tones.
He visited the families of the vanished, offered condolences that felt like empty gestures in the face of their grief, listened intently to their stories, each one a piece of a puzzle he was determined to solve. His silence was more comforting than any words could be. It was a shared understanding of the pain and loss that words could never fully capture.
He observed Edward Grimm, studied his movements with the precision of a hawk. Every gesture, every glance was noted the way he interacted with the townsfolk. There was a familiarity, yet a distance that was hard to ignore. The way his eyes followed them as they left the shop, as if he was searching for something or someone. The tension in the air thickened with each passing day. It was as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. A palpable sense of dread settled over the town. It was in the air, in the very fabric of the place. The stranger's presence had stirred something deep within the town, a long-buried secret, a truth that was too painful to face, awakened a truth they had tried so desperately to ignore. The stranger was not just an outsider, he was a catalyst, a harbinger of change that the town could no longer avoid. One night, under the pale light of the moon, the stranger made his move. The town was asleep, unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. The moon cast an eerie glow, illuminating the cobblestone streets and the silent buildings that lined them. He crept towards the butcher shop, his heart pounding in his chest. Each step was calculated, each movement precise. He knew he had to be careful, for any sound could give him away. His footsteps were silent on the cobblestones, a practiced stealth that came from years of experience. The night was still, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. The scent of iron was overpowering now, a metallic tang that made his stomach churn. The butcher shop was known for its cleanliness, but tonight it reeked of something far more sinister. He covered his nose in a grimace, trying to block out the nauseating smell. It was a scent he had encountered before, one that brought back memories he wished to forget.
He peered through the grimy window, his breath fogging up the glass. The flickering light inside cast eerie shadows, making it difficult to see clearly. The shop was empty, the counter wiped clean, but something wasn't right. The silence was too perfect, too staged. It was as if someone had meticulously erased all traces of what had happened here. The air was thick with the coppery smell of blood, a scent that clung to everything. The butcher tools, usually spotless, were now stained with dark, dried blood. And there, on the sawdust-covered floor, he saw it. A single earring. It was out of place, a stark contrast to the otherwise pristine surroundings, gold with a small ruby in the center. He recognized it instantly. It was a piece of jewelry he had seen many times before, always worn by the same person. It belonged to the missing schoolteacher, the one who had vanished without a trace, leaving the town in a state of fear and confusion, the one with the kind eyes and gentle smile. She had been a beacon of hope for many, her presence a comfort in troubled times.
Rage, cold and sharp, coursed through him. The thought of what might have happened to her filled him with a burning anger. He clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. He knew then what he had to do. There was no turning back now. He had to find her, to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The night was his ally, and he would use it to his advantage. He confronted Edward Grimm in the dead of night. The butcher, caught off guard, dropped the cleaver he had been sharpening. His eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed into slits of malice.
You shouldn't be here. This doesn't concern you.
It concerns me more than you know.
Grimm lunged, the cleaver whistling through the air. The stranger dodged, drawing his own weapon. The fight was brutal, a dance of death in the flickering light of the gas lamps. The stranger fought with a cold fury, his every strike precise and deadly. He moved with a speed and agility that belied his age. Grimm, though larger and stronger, was outmatched.
With a final decisive blow, the stranger disarmed the butcher. He stood over the fallen man, his chest heaving, his face grim. "It's over, Grimm."
They deserved it, all of them.
The stranger delivered the final blow, swift and merciful. Justice, though belated, had been served. The town discovered the truth the following morning. The sun had barely risen when the first screams pierced the air, drawing everyone to the heart of the town. The butcher shop, once a place of dread, was now a scene of horror. The once bustling shop, filled with the sounds of chopping and slicing, now stood silent, its walls echoing with the unspoken terror of the night before. Blood stained the floor, the walls, the tools of a butcher's trade. The crimson evidence of a nightmarish event that had unfolded within those walls, leaving a macabre tapestry of violence and despair. The townsfolk recoiled in horror, the smell of blood and fear thick in the air. It was a stench that clung to their clothes, their skin, and their very souls, a reminder of the darkness that had invaded their peaceful lives. The missing persons, their worst fears confirmed, were avenged but not forgotten. The stranger was gone. The community, though relieved, was left to grapple with the haunting memories and the loss of their loved ones. Vanished into the morning mist, leaving behind a trail of blood and justice. The mist seemed to swallow the evidence, but the memory of the stranger's deeds remained etched in the minds of the townspeople. The butcher shop remained abandoned, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic town. Its windows, once clear, were now clouded with grime, and its door creaked ominously in the wind. The smell of fear, however, lingered. It was an invisible presence, weaving through the streets, seeping into the cracks of the cobblestones, and whispering through the alleys, a ghostly residue clinging to the cobblestones and the whispers of the wind. It was as if the very air had absorbed the terror, holding on to it, refusing to let it dissipate, a constant reminder that some secrets are best left buried. The town, though it tried to move on, would never forget the events that had transpired, nor the lessons learned from the darkness that had once overshadowed their lives.